Hey everyone, how's it going? Coming to y'all with another knife review, and this one is one from Eafengrow. I'm going to go ahead and call this Eafengrow. It might be Eafengrow, it might be Eafengrow, I don't really know. I'm just going to assume that it's Eafengrow. That's how it looks to me. And this is the model EF-55. It's the desert tan version of the knife. It also comes in a black-handled version. And by looking at this, you can probably tell this is a copy of a Microtech Socom, at least in some ways. There are some design differences, but for the most part, to me anyhow, this resembles a Microtech Socom Delta Tanto point version. And the price point of this knife is significantly cheaper than one of those Microtechs. It comes in right about 25 bucks, I think, 25 to 30, which is a pretty reasonable and pretty affordable price tag. And I want to go ahead and say right now that I have some complaints on this knife, even at the price point that it's at. Alright? Before we start looking at everything, and before we start really talking about it, I want to say that if you don't have time to watch the full review, just know that if you want a super high quality, awesome folding knife for 30 bucks or less, you can get better quality out of a Gonzo knife. You can get better quality out of a lot of the Sander and Moose stuff. There's a lot of awesome Chinese knives on the market today, and this is certainly a functional knife, but it's far from what I'd call an awesome knife. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the packaging. As I showed you earlier, simple black box, has the name of the brand. We have a barcode, the information, made in China, and inside, at least on mine, I did receive the tool to adjust the pivot point, as well as the body screws and pocket clip screws. Okay, now I mentioned that at least on mine, because in reading a bunch of reviews on Amazon, many customers reported that they did not receive their adjustment tool with their knife. So keep in mind that there is a chance you will not receive the tool needed to adjust your knife when you buy it. To me, that is a gigantic criticism, because this does use the Microtech type proprietary screws. I don't know if this tool would fit the actual Microtechs. I assume that it would, because it looks pretty much identical. But the problem with that is that if you don't receive the tool with your knife, you'll have to go out and buy the aftermarket tools, and the official Microtech brand tools, last time I checked, were very, very expensive. Okay, so that's the packaging. I always try to show it off whenever I can. Let's move into the knife itself, starting with that gigantic, at least, you know, for me, in my hands, Tanto blade. Now, I said gigantic, it's only 3.9 inches, which to me is much too long for an everyday carry knife. However, my friend Hagen would disagree. Okay, after I received this knife, and there's an unboxing video where I got this and a few others, I realized it was much larger than I thought it was. I should have just read the description. Luckily, my friend Hagen, the person who owns that Kershaw Emerson I reviewed, saw it, loved the size of it, loved the look and feel of it, and actually is buying it off of me for what I paid for it. So, you know, he's the one who's been carrying and using this the most and testing it. I have used it for some cardboard cutting and some generic EDC tasks, though I did not carry this more than a couple days. I let him do the majority of the actual EDC with it, because it's more his size knife. It is a 3.9 inch American Tanto style blade, and we do have a single stamp on the blade. See that? It says D2. I'm going to let you guys know that that is a lie. Yep, this is not a D2 knife. Not only do I know that from my own personal testing on the blade, but LuvThemKnives, so I've mentioned quite a bit here lately, I've been really enjoying the channel, actually does steel tests where he sends off various knives to have these steels tested. And in every single one of the Eafengrow EF line knives that he sent off, by the way, Eafengrow has an EF line and a CH line. This is part of the EF line, as the name suggests. But every one of the EF knives that he sent out and had tested that claimed to be D2 was actually HCR 13 MOV, and in my testing, that is what this is as well. It performs just like HCR 13. So that is to say that it has moderate edge holding, extremely easy to sharpen, takes a very fine worker's edge, and has decent, not outstanding, rust resistance. Now, I don't mind the HCR 13 MOV blade. In fact, I think HCR 13 is a perfectly adequate steel. I don't like the dishonesty, however. So that will be a mark against this knife. Just know that when you're going into it, this will not be D2, it will be HCR 13. It will perform about like your Kershaw HCR 13s in my testing. Notice we have a fuller design on the blade, okay? Some people call it a blood groove. The purpose on this is just for looks and to make the knife just a tiny bit lighter. I do have some issues with the fuller, and that is just that the edges are extremely sharp. Okay, if you feel in here, I feel like if I swipe my thumb through here real quickly, it might actually cut my thumb open. Okay, so it's very roughly finished in here. And inside the fuller itself, I don't know if I'll be able to show this, the steel is actually unfinished. Maybe I can't. I'm having a hard time getting my camera to focus. There we go. The steel inside that fuller is actually completely unfinished, and as you can see, as a result, it's starting to rust a little bit. Come on. Come on. There we go. It's actually starting to rust in there. And it is so sharp, in fact, that I'm actually convinced if you took a ferro rod and ran it down there, you could probably strike it like a match, just zipping it through. It's extremely sharp inside the fuller. Not a huge deal, and it didn't really interfere with cutting. Okay, in slicing, it performed pretty adequately. It's a hollow ground blade, and it did pretty decently despite its very thick stock. But it is something I wanted to mention. By the way, in using this knife, the blade does work phenomenally. My friend, who's buying the knife off me, was really loving that Tanto point, because it helps opening up boxes at work significantly easier. You just take it, drag it down, no big deal. So it has been functioning pretty adequately in that regard. Okay, the deployment is double thumb studs or dual thumb studs, and the knife does come out super fast. Okay, does not take much, a little bit of pressure against that stud and out it comes. And that's because the knife is riding, at least from what I can tell, I haven't taken this apart to actually confirm it, but it appears to be riding on ball bearings in that pivot point. So it comes out with the minimal amount of effort, locks up tight, no play up and down, no play side to side. If this did develop play, I could adjust it with the tool. However, again, if you don't receive yours and it started developing some play, which I suspect that it will over time because I can almost guarantee these screws are not Loctited, you'll have a hell of a time trying to adjust it out of the knife. In-handle retention is outstanding. Okay, very, very good in-handle retention. If I really shake this, I can pop it out. But if I really shake pretty much any knife, I can get the blade to deploy. This will never accidentally open in your pocket. And the centering, spot on, perfect. What's not perfect is the thumb studs. Now, I can forgive that they're a little sharp. What I can't forgive is that you can see that they've come loose, just a tiny bit of effort. I have gripped onto each one of these ends with a pair of pliers and tried to tighten this, turning these things opposite directions. I don't think that it works. I think it's a press fit, and it is no longer tight. So you don't quote me. Maybe that I'm not applying enough pressure, but I think you would have to pressure that back down. So, again, super loose. I can't get it to adjust. Is it a big deal? Not really. It doesn't really affect performance, but it is a mark against quality, in my opinion. Another mark against the quality of this knife came on its handles. Alright, their G10 scales. Handle itself is 5.1 inches long, and the G10 provides, you know, pretty moderate to low traction, just because it's a polished G10, if you can tell. Okay, so it's not a super textured G10. The problem came though from how sharp the corners of the G10 were at a box. I actually had to sand this pretty heavily just to get those corners to be at the point where they weren't actually sharp. And I don't just mean squared off and boxy. I mean actually sharp. Like you could slice your hand on the G10 sharp. Is how it came out of box. It was really, really poorly finished. After sanding it, I no longer have that issue, though I can still say that it is a little squared off and not a super ergonomic knife. For light cutting tasks, it's fine. When you really bear down on this, those edges do just dig into your hand, and you will develop some hot spots. Okay? Again, my buddy hasn't noticed it, hasn't been carrying that much because he opens it up, zips open a box, closes the knife, goes about his day. But in my cardboard cutting, I could definitely feel it. We have what I'm going to assume is an aluminum backspacer, which has been anodized blue. I suppose it theoretically could be titanium, but in my, my best guess, my assumption would be that's just an anodized aluminum back there. Okay, and it is a liner locking knife. a captured liner lock, as you can see there. There are steel liners inside, they are not skeletonized, and the knife weighs 5.7 ounces as a result. So, you know, not too heavy for a knife this size. Honestly, I don't mind. But I feel like it's something that you should know. The liner lock itself has nice early engagement. As I mentioned before, it locks up like a vault. And there's a little bit of jimping on that liner to help disengage it. And disengaging that liner lock is comfortable because they rounded the edge of the liner. So they remembered to round off the liner lock, just not the G10 scales or the fuller of the blade. Yeah, definitely a fail in the attention to detail department. Pocket clip is one-way positionable. It is right-hand tip-up carry only. As you can see, there are no holes tapped to mount this any other way, and it carries like so. Alright, so you do have a decent amount sticking out of your pocket. I personally prefer that because it gives me, you know, a good amount to grab onto, or a good amount to grab onto and pull out the knife. I wouldn't want the, you know, about that much hanging out, but how much we have is adequate to me. By the way, there's our lanyard bail, so if you wanted to attach a lanyard to this, you easily could. Don't have a ton else to say about the knife. I did notice that it, you know, whenever I was carrying it, I could actually sometimes get those studs to act like a wave feature. And it wasn't all the time, it certainly wasn't consistent, but perhaps with enough practice you could get it to do so as well. See if I can do it on this pocket here. I noticed when I was pulling the knife out though, sometimes, and you can actually see having a hard time getting that out because the top of that fuller on the blade, or what I'm assuming, maybe it's not. Anyways, sometimes I can get the studs to grab onto the pocket itself and deploy the knife. I don't know what it's catching on there. Hard to show on camera with this little pocket, but I could occasionally get it to do so beforehand. By the way, the jimping on the handle is pretty much non-functional. It doesn't really provide any grip. But with the way the handle is shaped, you're not likely to come forward on that blade anyhow. Really don't have a lot else to say about this knife. I'm not super excited about it, and I'm very happy that my friend is. I've let him know about the issues I have with the knife, and he has, you know, he doesn't care. To him, it's just another functional tool. It's the size he likes the design, and that will be an upside. If you want a Microtech Socom but can't afford it, this will give you the same design overall, but it will come nowhere close to providing the same quality overall, nor should it. You know, you can't really expect it to. It is a $25 Chinese-made knife, and China's making some awesome knives these days, but if you handed me this and said, hey, can you believe this is a $25 Chinese knife? I would tell you, yeah, I definitely can. It's fine, it's serviceable, it's not a bad knife, but it's not really a good knife. It's perfectly adequate if you're looking for something to just go ahead and own, flick open and close in front of the TV, maybe occasionally carry it for a self-defense purpose, which it would excel at, just on that blade design alone. It does have a very nice sharp tip. But if you're planning to carry and use a knife every day or really bear down on it, I would definitely go with something else instead of this. Again, check out the Gonzo knives. They're much better quality than this. Sanren moves have better overall quality and fit and finish. The Bird line from Spyderco would be a better choice. But none of those will provide the Microtech Socom design. And if that's what you're after, this might be a worthwhile consideration. So, hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, peace and take care.